Metal Gear Solid 4, perhaps the biggest PlayStation 3 game, is now on store shelves. And right now, you're about to find out where Metal Gear goes next. Is Hideo Kojima really retiring from the series after MGS4?
I think he would accept that there might have to be another one. I think he's very clear that he doesn't think he should be the one to do it next.
Could MGS4 ever come to the Xbox 360?
They have to make more changes than just porting the code, let's put it that way.
Tune your codec to our frequency. This is the bonus round. Welcome back to the bonus round and our special edition on Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots. It just came out a few days ago, and that means you guys are playing it right now on your PlayStation 3s. And tonight we're going to look at, well, the future of the Metal Gear franchise. Where is it going to go next? And joining me to talk about that is Nguyen Croal, the general editor of technology at Newsweek, David Hayter, the voice of Solid Snake, and finally Rob Smith, the editor of official PlayStation Magazine. And Rob, you were one of the first people in the world to play through Metal Gear Solid 4, so you have experienced what everyone at home is experiencing this weekend playing through the game. So Kojima has said that this is his final Metal Gear, but I remember when I interviewed him for Metal Gear 2, he told me he was leaving it behind. I think he said the same thing after 3. Why should we believe him now, David?
I have no idea. I wouldn't. Why should we believe him now? Look, some fairly definitive things happen to Snake that are tough to come back from, and so I think that's certainly...
Always room for a prequel.
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as Solid Snake's story goes, I mean, you're likely playing his final mission,
right.
But yeah, it's possible they'll do prequels, but if they're doing them, they haven't told me about it, so anything's possible.
You may be done.
Maybe done. That may be it.
Or there may be another clone out there somewhere we don't even know about, right?
Well, and that's the thing. When you're playing a guy who's basically a clone of another character you've already played, and when you work in comic book movies, it's like, well, you're never really.
The resurrection is coming, right?
Yeah, it's possible.
Kind of like Hollywood.
That's it. Do you think, Nguyen, is this really Kojima's final Metal Gear?
I think he's serious about having this be his final Metal Gear.
Right.
What he told me was that it was less about whether or not there would be more Metal Gear games, because he himself said, and I would dispute him on this point, but he says he's not an artist, right? He says that his job is to produce entertainment and that he has to be responsive in some ways to what the fans want.
So if successful, he's got to do another one?
Well, I think he would accept that there might have to be another one.
Right.
I think he's very clear that he doesn't think he should be the one to do it next. So he says that it's time for the other members of his team who are younger to step up and take control of that. And he said, so I said, but what about your fans who are going to, they're going to be sending you emails and saying, like, Mr. Kojima, please make another Metal Gear game. And he said, well, I would ask them not to send me those emails. And I said, okay, I'll pass on that message.
I don't have his email address. So
I said, okay, I'll pass on that message. And he said, but what would be better is if they send me emails saying that they wanted me to work on new games.
Okay.
And I said, well, I'll pass that message on to them too. So I think it's clear that he feels that it's time for him to move on from Snake. But my guess is he'll godfather it and they'll show him things and whatnot. But it sounds like he's ready to move on.
Rob, after playing through MGS4, do you get a good sense of where the Metal Gear franchise would go next?
Well, I think it's so wide and broad, there's always going to be options within there along that timeline. I think from the standpoint of the production value in this and what it's taken to actually bring that game out, the number of people, the cost of the production, I'm sure that's got to be pretty draining all around on just the psyche of somebody that is such... He doesn't claim it an artist in creating this. And so I can imagine that a lengthy break for Mr. Kojima is definitely required, but that universe is still going to be out there for fans. If Metal Gear 4 is as successful as it deserves to be, I don't see Konami leaving it on the table, wanting for a game for too long.
What about Metal Gear going beyond just games? There's been talk about a Metal Gear movie. Do we know anything about sort of where that's at, Nguyen, or do you think that would be a good idea, or what should that movie be?
Well, personally, and I would defer to David simply because David is a trained professional screenwriter with great credits to his name.
Right.
But
and a Metal Gear spec at home.
that too, which I'm sure the fans of
spec outline.
I'll hurry up with my response so they can get to yours. But my feeling is that you can't just take what is done in the games and like translate it to movies for a couple of reasons. One is that the story is sort of very comic booky, very over the top, very talky. Usually what happens is two soldiers get together on the battlefield and talk. These Socratic exchanges about war and death and cruelty and all of these things. And those are things that, for the most part, don't exactly work in movies. And to me, if it were me at the helm, and trust me, it's not, I would do something that I think is a little more transitional, whether it was an anime or something that was CG, in the sense that those media are more hospitable to comic book style stories, and I think could sort of, get closer to establishing what Metal Gear could be in a pure linear form, and then maybe make the jump to live action. But maybe if I was skilled as David, I'd have a spec at home and I'd know how to do it, because it sounds like you cracked the code.